prime numbers are building blocks for the set of natural numbers, and every positive integer bigger than 1 can be written as product of primes in a unique manner apart from writing the primes. So apart from the order of writing, we have this number 27360, we can write it as a product of prime numbers, and you can also write it in this form taking prime powers. This is the fundamental theorem of arithmetic. Euclid, a mathematician 350 BC, he proved that the number of primes is infinite. You can also see this from this number n factorial plus 1. If you take any prime which is less than this, less than n, then this divides n factorial, so it cannot divide n factorial plus 1. Therefore, any prime factor of this must be bigger than n, and that also shows that the number of primes is infinite. There are arbitrarily gaps between consecutive primes. That is possible. We can see this by looking at this sequence of consecutive integers. Take any k and consider k plus 1 factorial plus 2, k plus 1 factorial plus 3, and so on, k plus 1 factorial plus k plus 1. These are k consecutive integers. You see that this number is divisible by 2, this is divisible by 3, and this is divisible by k plus 1. All these numbers are composite, and therefore we have a sequence of positive integers, sequence of k positive integers, none of which is a prime number. That shows that there are arbitrarily large gaps in the sequence of primes. On the contrary, there are also primes with a very small distance. So 2 and 3, these are prime numbers which are consecutive as numbers, integers, whereas 3, 5, these are prime numbers which have a distance of 2. Similarly, you can have 5 and 7, 11 and 13, 17 and 19. So such primes which are of the form p plus 2, these are called as twin primes. They are called as twin primes. And there is a question, how many twin primes are there? And there is a conjecture, twin prime conjecture, which says that the number of twin prime pairs is infinite. That is what is expected. At present, one does not have a proof of this result, and mathematicians are finding these large and large twin primes. From the internet, one can get the latest information about these twin primes, and the most recent twin primes are the following. P is equal to 655, 164, 68, 355 multiplied by 2 raised to 333, 333 minus 1. This is P, and P plus 2 is the next prime, this number plus 1. This is the example of largest known twin primes. These were found in 2009. There are also very special primes which are used in finding these twin primes and many other examples. So one of the best known examples of primes is Mersenne primes. Mersenne primes. If you look at a number like this, 2 raised to n minus 1, suppose this n is composite, like this is suppose 2 raised to a into b, n is product of a and b, then you will see that this can be written as 2 raised to a raised to b minus 1. And this number will have 2 raised to a minus 1 as a factor. And therefore 2 raised to n minus 1 is a composite number provided n itself is composite. So if you want this 2 raised to n minus 1 to be a prime, then you require that n itself is a prime number. So these numbers of the form 2 raised to n minus 1 where n is a prime, they are called as Mersenne numbers. So if p is prime, 2 raised to p minus 1 is called a Mersenne number. Mersenne number may or may not be a prime. If it is prime, it is called a Mersenne prime. So if 2 raised to p minus 1 is a prime, it is called a Mersenne prime. Mersenne, who Mersenne actually gave a list of numbers, prime numbers p, for which 2 raised to p minus 1 is prime. So Mersenne who lived in 1588 to 1648, he said that 2 raised to p minus 1 is prime if p is equal to 2, 3, 5, 7, 13, 17, 19, 31, 67, 127, 257. He gave a list of primes. By that he means that up to this 257, these are the values of p for which 2 raised to p minus 1 is prime. But later on, after 300 years, it was found that the value 67 is not right, and the value of p equal to 257 is also not right. These numbers p equal to 67 and 257 give you composite numbers 2 raised to p minus 1. On the contrary, some other primes were found which are not in the list given by Mersenne, and for example 61, p equal to 61, that should also be a prime, that is 2 raised to 61 minus 1 is a prime, and p equal to 89, this is also a prime number, 2 raised to 89 minus 1 is a prime. And then these using computers, and extensive calculations, people found more and more Mersenne primes, and the largest known Mersenne prime is 47th known Mersenne prime. This was found on August, this is known largest, August 23, 2008. This prime number is 2 raised to 43112,609 minus 1. And this has 129,78189 digits. This is not, there may be some other Mersenne primes before this which are not known right now. This is the known largest Mersenne prime. These Mersenne primes are used in finding perfect numbers, and a method given by Euclid says that if 2 raised to p minus 1 is a prime, then 2 raised to p minus 1 into 2 raised to p minus 1 is what is called is a perfect number. Is a perfect number. Perfect number means a number for which the sum of proper divisors is equal to the given number. Like if you take the number 6, the proper divisors are 1, 2 and 3, their sum is equal to 6. If you consider the number 28, in a similar manner you look at 1, then 2, 4, 7, 14. If you look at the sum of these numbers, these are all proper divisors, their sum is 28. These are perfect numbers, 6 and 28, these are the first two perfect numbers, and when you know a Mersenne prime, immediately you can construct these perfect numbers. In fact, Euler proved that these are the only even perfect numbers. The list given by Euclid is exhaustive list for even perfect numbers. So this was proved by the Swiss mathematician Euler. The perfect even numbers are given by 2 raised to p minus 1 into 2 raised to p minus 1, where 2 raised to p minus 1 is a Mersenne prime. Is a Mersenne prime. These are all even perfect numbers. That was proved by Euler. On the contrary, it is interesting to know that no odd perfect number is known. So no odd perfect number is known. There are some other interesting prime numbers. These are called Fermat primes. and these are of this type. Consider 2 raised to 2 raised to 0 plus 1. So this is f0. Now 2 raised to 0 is 1, 2 plus 1, that is 3. Then consider f1, that is 2 raised to 2 raised to 1 plus 1, that is 5. f2, that is 2 raised to 2 raised to 2 plus 1, that is 17. Then f3 is 2 raised to 2 raised to 3 plus 1, and one more number f4, that is 2 raised to 2 raised to 4 plus 1. So this is 250 f3, f4, this is 257, then 2 raised to 4 plus 1 is 65537. Fermat found that these are prime numbers, and he thought that all these numbers are prime numbers. However, it was found by Euler that the next number f5, that is 2 raised to 2 raised to 5 plus 1, you can factorize, and 641 is one of the factors. 641 into 6700, 417, that is f5, fifth Fermat number we can say, which is not prime. So this was found by Euler. At present, these numbers f0, f1, etc. up to f11, these are completely factored, have been completely factored. Now these Fermat primes especially, they were used in the numbers given by Gauss for constructibility of regular polygons. A long-standing question was, a regular polygon of n sides if you take, can you construct it by ruler and compass? And this Gauss, in his monumental work in 1801, Disquisitiones Arithmeticae, he gave a criterion for a regular polygon of p sides to be constructible. P is a prime number. So the theorem of Gauss is a regular polygon of p sides p prime is constructible by ruler and compass. If and only if this P is a Fermat prime, if and only if P is a Fermat prime. That is, it is of the form 2 raised to 2 raised to k plus 1. And then one can also give all values of n for which a regular polygon of n sides is constructible. So a regular polygon of n sides is constructible if and only if it is a product of a power of 2 and such primes p, Fermat primes. Okay. So a regular polygon of p sides of n sides is constructible, that is constructible by ruler and compass if and only if n is equal to 2 raised to k, let us say, into P1, P2, PR, where Pi are distinct Fermat primes. So the primes considered by Fermat, they were useful in this statement about constructibility of a regular n-gon by a ruler and compass. It is interesting that so far only 5 Fermat primes are known, that is F0, F1, F2, F3 and F4. These are the only known Fermat primes. There are other interesting theorems about primes which were proved in later times. One such is the prime number theorem. Proved by Hadamard and Delavalle-Poussin independently in 1896. So Hadamard, Delavalle-Poussin, independently in 1896, which says that if pi x is the number of primes less than or equal to x, then limit x tends to infinity, pi x divided by x upon log x is equal to 1. That is, pi x is asymptotic to x upon log x. This was conjectured by many mathematicians including Gauss and proved at the end of 19th century. The methods were those of complex analysis, whereas later on an elementary proof was given by Paul Erdos and Ethel Selberg. These two mathematicians, Paul Erdos and Ethel Selberg, gave elementary proof of prime number theorem. Another celebrated theorem about prime numbers is the theorem of Dirichlet about infinitely many primes in an arithmetic progression. So Dirichlet's theorem this says if AB equal to 1, that is A and B are co-prime, then there are an infinite number of primes, in the arithmetic progression A n plus B, n bigger equal 1. So B, B plus A, B plus 2A and so on. This arithmetic progression you can consider with common difference A. This has an infinite number of primes. This is a very useful result about prime numbers which appears in many contexts in mathematics. We shall now study congruences. The concept of congruences was introduced by Gauss in 1801. This is a simple concept to state, to define, and it is based on the concept of divisibility. So, we say that A and B are congruent to each other modulo M if A minus B is divisible by M. Two integers A and B are said to be congruent modulo M if A minus B is divisible by M. So here M is usually taken as positive. Okay. It cannot be taken as 0. It can be taken negative, but it does not give any advantage. Like A minus B is divisible by minus 7 would mean it is divisible by 7. So there is no additional advantage if you consider negative values of M. So usually we consider the modulus of the congruence as a positive integer. So M is called as the modulus of the congruence. And we write A congruent to B mod M. This is the notation for congruence. A number is divisible by M. That means it is congruent to 0 mod M. A is congruent to B would mean that B is also congruent to A mod M. So observe M divides A means A is congruent to 0 mod M. We can write this in this form. Also, A congruent to B mod M, B congruent to A mod M, and A minus B congruent to 0 mod M are the same statements. This means A minus B is divisible by M. This means B minus A is divisible by M. That means A minus B is divisible by M. And here A minus B is congruent to 0 mod M means A minus B minus 0, that is A minus B itself, is divisible by M. This relation congruence is what is called an equivalence relation. So, note, congruence is an equivalence relation. Congruence is an equivalence relation. So, equivalence relation has these three things. It should be reflexive, that is A is congruent to A mod M. Every integer is congruent to itself, that is reflexive. Second, A congruent to B mod M implies B congruent to A mod M. And this is called as symmetry. So the congruence relation is symmetric. And third thing is, if A congruent to B mod M, B congruent to C mod M, then A congruent to C mod M. This is called as the transitivity property. So reflexive, symmetric and transitive, that is an equivalence relation. So it is like similarity of triangles, congruence of triangles, equality of numbers. So many properties of equality are available here, and it is easy to give arguments in many cases using congruence notation where divisibility is used. So further properties of congruence. These are the easy properties that we shall be considering. So, 1, if A congruent to B mod M and C congruent to D mod M, then the sum of these two is congruent to the sum of these two. So A plus C congruent to B plus D mod M. The proof is very easy using divisibility, that you want to show that A plus C minus B plus D is divisible by M. For that you use M divides A minus B and M divides C minus D. So proof of this, since A congruent to B mod M, M divides A minus B. Similarly, C congruent to D mod M, so M divides C minus D. Now, using properties of divisibility, M divides this and M divides C minus D, therefore M divides the sum of these two quantities, therefore M divides A minus B plus C minus D, and that can be written as A plus C minus B plus D, and that's what you want. A plus C minus B plus D is divisible by M. Therefore, A plus C congruent to B plus D mod M. This is the property of the congruence relation with respect to addition. In a similar manner, you can prove properties for multiplication. You can multiply a congruence by an integer k. So that is second property I will have. If A congruent to B mod M and C congruent to D mod M and K in Z, then we can multiply this congruence by K, Ka congruent to Kb mod M, and you can multiply these two, A and C, multiply these two, they are congruent. AC congruent to BD mod M. AC congruent to BD mod M. So if you want to prove a Ka congruent to Kb mod M, you look at the difference of these two quantities. So prove Ka minus Kb is equal to K into A minus B. But M divides A minus B because A is congruent to B mod M. Therefore, M divides K into A minus B. And that shows that Ka congruent to Kb mod M. So you can multiply a congruence by an integer. Also, if you want to show the next result, AC congruent to BD, next AC is congruent to, now A is congruent to B mod M, multiply that congruence by the integer C. Therefore, AC is congruent to BC mod M. This is because A congruent to B mod M. Now look at the next congruence, C congruent to D mod M, multiplied by B. So BC will be congruent to BD from the second congruence. So I can say BC is congruent to BD mod M, since C congruent to D mod M. Right? Multiply this by B and you get BC congruent to BD mod M. That proves AC congruent to BD mod M. So if you have congruences, they can be added and you can also multiply them. You can multiply this congruence by some integer also. The next property of congruence is you can change the modulus. So third, if A congruent to B mod M and D divides M, D positive, then A congruent to B mod D. Take a positive divisor of M. That is because we use the modulus as positive usually. So if A congruent to B mod M, then A congruent to B mod D. This is obvious result that A minus B is divisible by M and M is divisible by D. Therefore D will divide A minus B and therefore A congruent to B mod D. Also, A congruent to B mod M you can multiply throughout by some positive integer K. Also, if K is a positive integer, K bigger than 0, then Ka congruent to Kb mod Km. Ka congruent to Kb mod Km. I am multiplying K, multiplying by K to A and B as well as the modulus M. Okay, that is the change here. So the previous statement was Ka congruent to Kb mod M only, but we can also say Ka congruent to Kb mod Km. So once A minus B is divisible by M, Ka minus Kb, which is K into A minus B, is divisible by Km. So moreover, this congruence is what we call an equivalent congruence. So note that the congruence Ka congruent to Kb mod Km is equivalent to A congruent to B mod M. Okay. If A congruent to B mod M, then Ka congruent to Kb mod Km. If Ka congruent to Kb mod Km, you get A congruent to B mod M. Okay. the earlier result that this one K congruent to KB mod M only, that is not equivalent, that is just a consequence. So this also is easy to prove, it's very useful. Then we have the concept of cancellation. If I have say Ka equal to Kb, I can cancel K and say A equal to B. But is the cancellation true in the case of this congruence mod M? So to some extent it is true, one has to be somewhat careful about cancellation. So cancellation in congruence equations or congruences. Cancellation. When can you cancel? To what extent you can cancel? So one result, X congruent to AY mod M, if and only if X congruent to Y mod M by M. That is, you may not be able to say X minus Y is divisible by the same M, but you can certainly say that X minus Y is divisible by this smaller number, probably smaller, M upon the GCD of A and M. This is if and only if. And a consequence of this is the following. Suppose A is coprime to M. So if AM equal to 1, X congruent to AY mod M, if and only if, I double F is if and only if X congruent to Y mod M. This is a particular case of this by taking the GCD of A and M is 1, that is the number to be cancelled, that is A, is coprime to M. So we see the proof of this. So suppose AX congruent to AY mod M. Therefore, AX minus AY, that's equal to A into X minus Y. This is K times M. K times M. Now you divide both sides by the GCD AM. Therefore, A upon AM into X minus Y is equal to K into M upon AM. This is an integer, AM divides A, this GCD AM divides M, these are integers. Now this number and this number, they are coprime. That's what we have to use. So A by AM divides the product of these two numbers, and this is coprime with the first number. Therefore, this has to divide the second number. That is the property of divisibility. M by AM divides A by AM into X minus Y. But M by AM is coprime with A by AM. Right? Whatever common is there, that is AM, that we have divided by that. So the remaining parts, they are co-prime. And we know that if A divides BC and A is co-prime to B, then A has to divide C. So using that, we can deduce that A by M divides X minus Y. Therefore, M by AM divides X minus Y, that is X congruent to Y mod M by AM. This is one way result. Conversely, you can assume that X congruent to Y mod M by AM. Conversely, assume that X congruent to Y mod M by AM. That is, this is a difference, X minus Y is a multiple of this. Hence, there is an integer, let us say K1, such that X minus Y, the difference between these two is K1 times M by AM. Therefore, now you multiply AM times X minus Y, GCD of A and M times X minus Y is equal to K1 times M. But so M divides AM times X minus Y, but AM divides A. Therefore, this side divides A times X minus Y. Therefore, M divides A times X minus Y. And that is AX minus AY. That means that AX is congruent to AY mod M. This is the requirement. We wanted to prove that. Therefore, AX congruent to AY mod M. So this is about cancellation. That if AX congruent to AY mod M, you can cancel A, but the modulus changes. It becomes M by AM. And obviously, 2 follows by taking AM equal to 1. These are very basic properties of congruences. Now we will see another interesting property of congruences. You take a polynomial with integer coefficients. So let fx belong to zx. That is, fx is a polynomial with integer coefficients. Then A congruent to B mod M implies Fa congruent to Fb mod M. If A is congruent to B mod M, then substitute A or B in the polynomial fx. So Fa is congruent to Fb mod M. The proof of this follows from the properties of congruences that we have seen. So to prove this, take this polynomial fx as let us say fx equal to a0 plus a1x plus a2x square plus and so on plus an x raised to n. where this A1, A2, etc. So AI belong to Z, 0 less than equal to I less than equal to N. So FA will be A0 plus A1A plus A2A square and so on. FB will be like that, F0 plus A1B plus and so on. Now, since A congruent to B mod M, you multiply this with itself. So A congruent to B, we know A congruent to B, C congruent to D would mean AC congruent to BD. So multiply this with itself. A into A congruent to B into B. That is A square will be congruent to B square mod M. A square congruent to B square mod M. Multiply this congruence by the previous congruence. So then multiplying A cube congruent to B cube mod M. Now you can use induction. Assume that A raised to N minus 1 congruent to B raised to N minus 1 mod M. Multiply by this A congruent to B mod M. What you get is A raised to N congruent to B raised to N mod M. By induction, assume that A raised to N minus 1 congruent to B raised to N minus 1 mod M, multiplying by A congruent to B mod M, we get A raised to N congruent to B raised to N mod M. This is true for all n, natural numbers n. So look at the terms in this polynomial. We have a1x, a2x square and so on. So take a specific power of a, say a raised to I. It is congruent to b raised to I. Multiply by the corresponding ai. Okay, ai x raised to I, that is the general term. So now for 0 less than equal to I less than equal to n, a raised to I congruent to b raised to I. So multiply by ai, a raised to I. So this is mod m congruent to ai b raised to I mod m. Add all these congruences. So adding these n plus 1 congruences, we get, if you add all this, you get f of a, and if you add all these for I equal to 0 to n, we get f of b. So fa congruent to fb mod m, fa congruent to fb mod m. And you have immediate application of this result in divisibility tests. So application to divisibility tests. Divisibility by 3 or 9. We have 10 congruent to 1 mod either 3 or 9. mod 3 or mod 9. 10 minus 1 is 9, which is divisible by 3 or 9. If you take any integer, positive integer, we write it in the decimal notation. So n be a number like this, an minus 1, etc., a naught written in base 10. Therefore, it is an into 10 raised to n plus an minus 1 into 10 raised to n minus 1 plus etc. plus a1 into 10 plus a naught. And then we can write this as f of 10 for a specific polynomial fx. Let fx equal to an x raised to n plus an minus 1 x raised to n minus 1 plus and so on plus a1x plus a naught. Okay. So n is equal to f of 10. F of 10 is congruent to f of 1 mod either 3 or 9, mod 3 or mod 9. What is f of 1? F of 1 is the sum of the digits. Digits of n. Every natural number is congruent to the sum of the digits of the number modulo 3 or 9, and therefore the number is divisible by 3 or 9, that is, it is 0 mod 3 or 9 if and only if the sum of the digits is 0 mod 3 or 9. Okay? That is the test of divisibility by 3 or 9. Hence n is divisible by 3 or 9 if and only if its sum of the digits is divisible by 3 or 9. Stop now.